Hello everyone, and welcome back to some more AEW on TEW 2020, continuing the road towards the New Year's as we come into the third week of December. We begin with Angelico being defeated by John Silver here on Dark. Hybrid 2, they are temporarily on hiatus because Jack Evans, actually in the events just before this episode of Dark, or this recording of both, was caught high on drugs, so we've sent him to rehab. Angelico, currently a singles guy. Garza Jr. defeats Matt Cardona. Cardona has a new picture on there. I am slowly working towards changing the picture packs. I'm going to try to go with some of the GIF picture packs that have come out in the recent updates of Real World Chronicles, but this is just a start. Anna Jay defeats Elena Black. Mayu Iwatani defeats Reina Obscura. Diona Purrazzo defeats Killer Kelly. The Motor City Machine Guns defeat TNT. TNT, both of the Dudley brothers, twin sons of Devon Dudley. It's not awful. So they're brought in. They're currently working at the Nightmare Factory, trying to get a little bit better. Another good tag. Oh, okay, they're not good quite yet, but they are another tag team to add to the division that we will be working up in the future. Christopher Daniels defeats Al Lindemann and bruises his eye socket. Sammy Guevara defeats Chuck Taylor. Chris Bay defeats Keith Bolton. Keith Bolton, he is a recent grad of the Nightmare Factory. A lot of the recent grads, a lot of the generated people, I don't quite have a storyline down for yet, but I will be figuring this out in time. I'll be figuring out exactly what their characters are, really just working from there. Speaking of, another new debut in Martin Valentine, I believe is the debut, yep. They are beaten by the Private Party. Isaiah Cassidy with a 63. Wow. Yeah, I think it was actually Martin Valentine that was horrifically bad. He gets a 3 rating, which impressively low, but Private Party, they are, of course, they're up there for getting after the tag titles. They are the ones who are facing FTR at New Year's, so they're getting a little bit of a tune-up here on Dark. That ends off Dark, so yeah, see you out on Dynamite. Alright, so we have our second week of the Brandon Cutler D&D Hour. Not really all that much happens in this episode. They just go through a fight. They get told that this dragon they're going after is later on in the cave. Again, this is something that it starts off very, very slow, but it will get very interesting very quick. So look forward to that. The show proper opens up when the Inner Circle defeats the Jurassic Express after Luchasaurus is defeated after interference from Brian Cage. And after the match, Jericho is laughing as Team Taz begins to beat down Jurassic Express. Commentary team rightfully assumes that this is what Jericho was talking to Taz about last week. And why do I have Cash Wheeler there? What? That's probably supposed to be Jericho. Anyways, eventually Inner Circle, they leave, and Luchasaurus manages to break free from Brian Cage, turns the fight around, and eventually, he's actually pretty successful against all 3 members of Team Taz, but Taz, he calls them all back. Brian Cage takes a little bit of time to leave, and he's kind of staring staring Luchasaurus face to face. I really screwed things up. Lance Archer is supposed to be Luchasaurus. Cash Wheeler is supposed to be Chris Jericho. Eventually, Ricky Starks manages to bring Cage back, but there's this huge stare down between Brian Cage and Luchasaurus. After this, Renee Paquette is interviewing Kenny about what Moxley said last week. Kenny says, "See, I'm sure you'll disagree with me, Renee, because you're the one who married him, but I think that your husband is lying. I know you would know more than anyone else here whether or not he did go to talk to Coda, but I think he's just trying to get under my skin. See, I don't know if Kota would do something like want to come here more if I was acting strange, and I don't think John could have done anything special to sway him. I don't believe his words for a second, and he's a dangerous man. I'm sure you know just how dangerous he is more than most. No matter what you say, I don't believe you. He's lying about Kota. I know it. Kota's here because of business only. So last week, Jon Moxley, he said that he was with Tony Khan in recruiting Kota Ibushi to come to AEW, and Kenny's like, I don't really believe that. So, just kind of relaying that to Renee as we continue on that storyline. After this, the Nightmare Family defeats members of the Dark Order. Yeah, this was alluded to last week. Then, camera switches to backstage, where Mr. Brody Lee is standing over a beaten-up Jordan Grace, Anna Jay and Tay Conti beside him. Cody, he says, you started this war, and I want you to always remember that. No matter what happens, know all of this is your fault. All the pain you've let happen to Arth, all of you the pain you've let happen to poor Jordan here. You started this war. You should have immediately struck while the iron was hot. Should have struck before I could enact my plans, but you didn't. You sat around and hoped that your position would be enough to lord over me. You hoped that by being an executive, I would be too scared to go after you. You're dead wrong, Cody. I spent all this time planning for you, so what are you going to do about it? And right afterwards, the Von Erichs debut. Arn Anderson is close behind, and they get a bit of a jump on Brody Lee before other members of the Dark Order repel the Von Erichs off, and they take Jordan Grace away. Last week, Cody sent Arn Anderson off to do something, and he's ended up recruiting the Von Erichs. After this, Lance Archer defeats Trent in half a minute. And then, Matt Sydal rushes to the ring afterwards, and he has a mic in hand already. And, Lance Archer, he's prepared to beat down Trent more after he's already beaten him. And Matt Sydal says, Lance, look, I just need you to calm down. I know you're frustrated after what happened 2 weeks ago with PAC and those idiots and this stupid brutality Inc. or whatever. Trust me, I am too. But hurting Trent, killing Trent, won't do anything. All it accomplishes is getting us further away from our goals, because you'd be disillusioned, Lance. A bit of anger is warranted, I won't lie, but how's about we finally make good on our deal? Got some people together, they have a great spot for you and Jake, and we can just refocus. Your anger, your rage, it's all good, but we need to put it to good use if we want any championships. Deal? And Lance Archer, he kind of turns to Jake Roberts. Jake Roberts, he nods, gives a thumbs up, and Lance Archer actually does calm down. He, stops trying to hurt Trent. So, he actually is, Matt Sydal's managing to calm the beast a little bit. He said, I believe all the way back when the Vision started, there was, they alluded to some deal, and now Matt Sydal, I guess, wants to do a little bit of meditation with Lance Archer. We'll see where things go from here. Shawn Spears then defeats Dragon Lee with a very nice 61 performance. And Tully Blanchard comes to the ring afterwards, and he has a mic in hand. Says, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why Shawn here was a bit angry after last week's match against Darby Allin. Well, it's a bit simple. Darby's a wily young kid. He has years ahead of him. And yet he is getting more spotlight than an established veteran like Shawn, more attention in the forefront than people who know what they're doing. And no matter how you slice it, Darby is an unsafe worker. He's a danger to himself and the people around him. Yet everyone here loves him, while they reject Shawn Spears. I don't get it, and so I told Shawn to go a little extra on Darby, win or lose. So, kind of just explaining how Shawn Spears hasn't really been doing much. He's been a veteran, a long-time veteran. Darby Allin, he's still very young. He is a reckless worker. If you remember many episodes ago, he is the reason why Brandon Cutler is injured. That was a direct botch move by Darby Allin. So, and I think he also, this might have been in a first draft of this series, but I think he also injured Brian Cage. Afterwards, well, Tully continues by saying, of course I might be a bit to blame. I've been coaching Sean for a while now, and haven't really done too much to better him. Luckily, I recognize that about myself, and I've decided to get Sean a little bit of help. Cody telling Arn to be active made me think that I need to do the same, and luckily I've gone out and grabbed some people of my own. Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Fred Yehi, or however you pronounce his last name, then come down to the ring, and Tully Blanchard, he approves. His approving smile is, welcome to the squad. Says it's a good thing I saw Arn talking to the Von Erichs over the course of the past week. It's made me realize I need to return to my roots in tag team wrestling, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help show AEW what Shawn Spears is all about as well. Probably, also boost up his own brand within AEW, because Tully hasn't really been doing much. Arn Anderson had the advantage of being with Cody. Tully stuck with Shawn Spears. Bit of a drop-off. Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Fred Yehi. They will be a tag team together. Shawn Spears probably will also circle in there as well. So, just some good work, some good, hard-nosed, technical guys. Sammy Guevara and Jake Hager then defeat the Butcher and the Blade, after Sammy Guevara pins the Blade. Chris Jericho then comes into the ring, he has the mic in hand, and he says, Kurt, I think I know what the deal is. You're just jealous of us. We're better than you in every way. You pride yourself on wrestling by getting an amateur wrestler like Charles Betts, while the Inner Circle has MMA star Jake Hager. You think you have the best tag team in the entire world, but we have a bond between so many other people than what you have. Oh, and because of the lovely AJ Mendez, we even have the advantage of having our foot in the women's division as well. You know what? You have every right to be jealous of us, Kurt. The Inner Circle has the better leader in Le Champion, the better tag team because we have more tag teams, and the better singles wrestler in Jake Hager, and better women's division representation because we have women's division representation. So, I suppose you're forgiven for being jealous, but don't think that doesn't mean that I'm going to just let you off easy. Don't think that I'm not going after those titles once the private party are done with you. Hell, even if they win, I'll go for those titles anyways. Any day of the week, I will eventually win those titles. Other such things like that. So Jericho, saying, hey, FDR, you have a right to be kind of upset with us because we're just better than you, and you know it. Except that's MJF's thing, but whatever. Speaking of MJF, his bodyguard in Wardlow gets defeated by Garza Jr. And then in our main event, alright, Pac and Brian Pillman Jr. then defeat the Lucha Brothers. And Pac, head and shoulders above everyone else, not really a surprise. Brian Pillman Jr., the weakest link, not really a surprise as well. 70 rating, pretty decent. And afterwards, there's a huge brawl between Eddie Kingston's people and Pac's people. There's fighting between the men of each faction. Eddie Kingston, he slides out of the ring while there's this huge scrum going on in the middle, and Killer Kelly comes out from behind, knocks him to the floor, and begins fighting the rest of the Blood Brothers. And they're a bit stunned. They didn't really expect Killer Kelly to show up. And eventually, the Blood Brothers escape the ring. They start on Pac, who's standing tall in the ring. He has Dijak, he has the Hit Squad, he has Pillman Jr., now Killer Kelly. Again, the show not going to be the best rated because I am still working on this new form of booking. So, yeah, 68. I'm fine with this. As long as we're gaining pop, I'm fine with this. So, yeah. Again, I'm banking on New Year's being a very good show. It should be. But again, I have to get more accustomed to this new form of booking, but that's just something on my end. Hopefully, the stories are still going pretty well, even if the ratings aren't going the best. But again, it's a work in progress. We'll see you for the next week.